Well, folks, it happened. After years of twiddling their thumbs, going nowhere, doing nothing, and having no game plan for the future of Walt Disney World, finally, Disney has woken up and they've put themselves back in the game. At this past D23 just earlier this month, Disney went ahead and announced an absolute smorgasbord of new attractions and rides for the Walt Disney World parks. Rides and attractions that, let's be honest folks, Disney World needs after years of raising prices, taking away things that were free and making them paid for products, and cutting costs left and right. It is no surprise that Disney needs to do something to get the consumer back interested in the parks, especially with their competitor Universal Studios building a brand new theme park opening up next year. Clearly, things are going to become a whole lot tougher for Disney going forward down the line, and these new additions, they're hoping at least, will help to mitigate some of that damage. So what are these game-changing, world-breaking, park-saving additions that Disney World has brought into the fold and will be bringing to the Disney World parks in the coming years? Well, the first one is Zootopia Better Zoogether. Oh my god, that might be the worst name I've ever heard, but that will be replacing It's Tough to Be a Bug in Animal Kingdom, you know, the show inside of the Tree of Life. And I mean, okay, yeah, It's Tough to Be a Bug was a bit outdated. It certainly was losing popularity and attendance levels were low, so it makes sense to get a replacement there, but at the end of the day, it's a 3D show. I don't think it's really making or breaking any sort of decision making for guests as far as visiting Animal Kingdom or not. The good news is at least, though, that, of course, a show like this has a lot of capacity, so the fact they're not replacing this with something that is not a show and has lower capacity, you know, so at least they're keeping the capacity here is good, because Animal Kingdom needs it, and it's also good that we're going to be getting this new attraction in late 2025, so at least we have something new to look forward to for next year. Speaking of next year, we're also going to have a brand new nighttime parade at the Magic Kingdom, one that is returning for the first time in years since the Main Street Electrical Parade ended back in 2016. And, of course, we're also getting Test Track 3.0, as was previously announced. Thank you, GM, for paying for that. But that should be, you know, at least something, again, new. Whether or not it's better than the previous version, whether or not it's better than Test Track 1.0, hey, who knows? But again, at least we're getting an upgraded version of a previously existing ride. So honestly, I have to say, this is a pretty impressive amount of stuff to be opening next year, given the fact that even just a year ago, it looked like Disney had no game plan whatsoever to compete with Epic Universe or to build new stuff at Disney World whatsoever. So this is a really good offering, given the fact that Disney World was late to respond to Epic Universe. This is a pretty good set of offerings to have come out in the year. But at the end of the day, you have to consider this. Test Track, it's the same ride. It's just an upgrade of the same ride. So really, you talk about EPCOT's offerings, it's no different than it was before Test Track closed. You talk about Animal Kingdom. Well, Zootopia is a 3D show, just like It's Tough to Be a Bug. So again, you talk about the overall offering of Animal Kingdom. Guess what? There still is a 3D show in its offering. It just happens to be themed to something else and is slightly upgraded. That's really it. So at the end of the day, you talk about what Animal Kingdom's offering, from things to do, what those things are, and capacity, it's the same. Same goes for Epcot. Things have not changed. The only thing that's really changing here is Magic Kingdom getting a nighttime parade, which does add something new to that park's offerings. So that's the only thing I kind of see as being a problem with these additions, that they're not really additions. They're kind of just superficial changes that kind of allow Disney to market a new attraction when really the park is offering the same exact things that they were previously. And I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be enough to persuade guests to visit Disney World on ultimately what's going to be an Epic Universe trip. But ultimately, I think Disney's okay with that. I mean, brand new theme park, state-of-the-art park from your competitor in Universal. I mean, I think they knew that there was just no way, no matter what they did, that they could really compete with that in the opening year. I think they kind of knew it. They're going to lose out to that in some way, shape, or form, right? They're not going to be able to overshadow whatever's going on there. So you might as well save your real big hitters, your big swingers, your home run shots to take out the legs, ultimately, of Epic Universe in its latter years. And the first strike that Disney's going to try and lob against Universal is the Tropical Americas land, which will be replacing Dinoland USA in Animal Kingdom. This land will feature 3 rides, a ride themed to Encanto, a ride themed to Indiana Jones, and the biggest one of all, this one's going to blow your mind, a carousel. Whoa. But in all seriousness, this is a big deal for Animal Kingdom. The park's attendance has fallen off a cliff over the last few years. It's become easily the lowest attended park in the Disney World chain, not to mention that they also happen to find themselves lower in attendance than even the two Universal parks, which is a problem, obviously. So clearly, Animal Kingdom needed a major addition to get the wheel spinning again as far as interest from the general public. And you know what? This could be it. That could be the major addition that Animal Kingdom needed to boost them back up to new heights. The only problem is we gotta wait for it, as Disney announced that it wouldn't be opening until 2027. The only hope here is that apparently the land is going to close in phases, so maybe it's possible that something like the Encanto attraction could open up earlier, maybe in 2026, before the entire land is open in 2027. We'll see. I wouldn't be too optimistic about that. Do we really think that Disney can build an attraction like that from the ground up in 2 years? I don't know. Something about history tells us that's not very likely to happen, but we'll see. And what we do know is that if Encanto does not open in 2026, then guess what? Disney World will have nothing new in 2026. We talked about that trio of offerings that Disney World will have on their plate in 2025 to try and slow the impact of Epic Universe when it opens. But the problem is they have nothing opening in 2026. So if Encanto does not open in 2026, it could be Red Dead Redemption for the Disney World parks in 2026, because we know that's going to be the first full year that Epic Universe is open, and arguably when it's going to have the greatest impact against the other Orlando theme parks. So I don't know. I think that could be kind of a rough year for Disney World, especially if Encanto does not open that year. But even if it does, I mean, it's only going to save Animal Kingdom. It's not going to save the rest of the resort. So it's still going to be a painful year for Disney, more than likely. Now, that being said, I might not have been fully honest when I said there was nothing else new coming to the parks in 2026, because we are getting a new Mandalorian-themed mission for Smuggler's Run in Hollywood Studios, so I guess that's something. But, I mean, at the end of the day, again, this is not going to be a game-breaking thing. It's not going to be something that's going to derail or change anybody's decision-making when it comes to what parks they go to on an Orlando theme park trip. Now, those are the only projects that Disney World gave an opening date for, which, don't worry, folks, it does not mean that the rest of these are blue sky and they're not happening, or they're 50-50, they might happen. No, folks, these are still happening, and the reason we can be sure of that is because Disney has given a date for when they will begin construction on these projects and when they will start putting shovels in the ground. The first of these, which will begin construction early next year, are two Cars attractions which will open in Frontierland, replacing Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island in the Magic Kingdom. And say what you will about this decision, folks, but at the end of the day, Disney World obviously needs a few things, right? Quite a number of things, actually, but some of the most important things they need is capacity, things to do at certain parks like Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, which currently have a lack of things to do, and they need new major things of significance, things that will actually change the way that you experience these Disney parks. I have to say it, but something like the Zootopia show is not changing how anybody experiences Animal Kingdom. By and large, it is the exact same experience. Something like two new Cars attractions coming in a place where you previously had a riverboat and an island that you just kind of walked around is a huge difference in the way you experience Magic Kingdom. And ultimately, that is what Disney World needs right now. They need significant change. And I know for a lot of Disney World purists, that's going to be a bit of an upsetting thing. But at the end of the day, Disney World is facing competition that they have never faced before. When Universal was small fry, Disney didn't have to worry about building new things. That was not a priority. That was not a necessity for them to do, as evident from their behavior throughout the 2000s and early 2010s. They did nothing, at least in the grand scheme of things. But you talk about now, they're being pressured by Universal because they're gaining market share every year. And now with this new theme park on the way, Universal's rise to the top is now made even more possible and now even more clear than it ever has before. And that's really scary for Disney. And it means that they have to make changes. They have to adapt, and they have to give people reasons to come to their parks each and every year. It can't just be enough that they have all these old classic attractions that is bringing people back. They need new attractions that really excite people. And of course, it goes without saying that if Disney were to go ahead and make this an expansion as opposed to a replacement, that'd be 1,000 times better. There's no denying that. but it doesn't necessarily mean that replacing Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America here for cars is necessarily a bad thing just because it's worse than that outcome that we had previously hoped might be the case. But let's be honest, folks, as we all are well aware, Disney is incapable of making the straight up best decision nowadays. There's always got to be some drawbacks. So what were you expecting when we thought that it could be an expansion beyond Big Thunder Mountain? You had to have thought that that was too good to be true. Let's be honest, folks. So yeah, springboarding off of that rant is another land that is going to start construction next year, and that's a Monsters Inc. land in Hollywood Studios, with its core attraction being an indoor roller coaster. Now, this is all fine and dandy, and it checks the box of being something that is significant and new, but it is also going to be a replacement, and Disney has not confirmed where they are putting this new land. And really, there are a few options here. There's Bachelorette number 1. She's got great capacity, but let's be honest, folks, she doesn't fill up very often. Apparently, she also has home to one of the best bathrooms in all of Disney World, but also has to be home to one of the worst restaurants of all time. Yours for the demolishing, Muppet Vision 3D. Bachelorette number 2. She breaks down often, and when she breaks down, she stays down for a very long time. Her band just retired, and she's in a location in the park that makes absolutely no sense for Monsters Inc. to go in, so therefore she is a perfect choice. Give it up for Rockin' Roller Coaster. And finally, the one you've all been waiting for, Bachelorette number 3. She likes pina coladas, getting caught in the rain, and also loves it when nobody steps foot in her land. It's everyone's favorite, Animation Courtyard.
So, will it be Bachelorette number 1, Bachelorette number 2, or Bachelorette number 3?
Pick number 3, my lord. Oh, okay.
Number 1! Bob Iger, you've chosen Muppet Vision 3D.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Nah, I'm kidding. We don't know where this is going, though that would be hilarious if they took out Muppet Vision 3D, because let's be honest, folks, we obviously need an expansion in Hollywood Studios. At the end of the day, that's really what's needed, because the park has severe lack of capacity. It's unbelievable, and they also really could use more things to do as well, on top of that. And Muppet Vision, one of the great things about it is that it is a people eater. Yes, maybe not as many people go to the show as maybe we would like, but at the end of the day, it still is a show that takes you out of the park for a significant amount of time and thus lowers wait times elsewhere. And if you want to do the show, it also is almost always a walk-on, so you never have to wait for it, which is nice considering you have to wait for everything else in the park, and on busy days, you might be waiting an hour for pretty much everything. At least an hour. And let's be honest, folks, Rock'n' Roller Coaster is not much of a better choice either, right? That's a pretty premier attraction for Hollywood Studios. It would be definitely a bummer to lose, especially just to swap it out for another roller coaster. Whereas you have Animation Courtyard sitting there doing nothing, housing a meet and greet area that nobody goes to. Can we please take care of this first before we touch anything else? Yes, maybe long-term Muppet Vision needs to go. Maybe Rock'n' Roller Coaster needs to go. But can we please, at the very least, if you're not interested in doing expansion, can you at the very least take care of that first? Why in the world would you touch anything else in that park before taking care of that? It's just insane. It's crazy that we're even having this conversation right now. This should have been already tackled and taken care of. And there's a rumor that apparently Disney doesn't even know where they're doing with this land yet. They don't even know where they're putting it. How is that possible? This should have been solved ages ago. I don't know. Anyways, regardless, I think Monsters Inc. will be a good addition, but, you know, come on. Let's be smart about this, all right? And then the only other thing that Disney announced was a Villains Land, also in the Magic Kingdom, presumably going to be built behind Cars Land in that second latter half of Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America. They did not give a date for when they start construction on this, so you could chalk it up as a blue sky idea for the moment, right? We have no idea if they're actually going to do it or not. But given the fact that they did commit to all these projects that we've already talked about here today, I feel pretty good that they will actually go through with this plan, at least in some way, shape, or form. So there it is, folks. There's the whole enchilada, what effectively lays out to be basically a 5-year plan for the Disney World parks going forward. The only problem is, as you kind of noticed as I was talking through all of these, there are significant drawbacks and cons to every single project. There's not really a straight up win with any of these. There's no like straight up 100% gain. There's something being lost as a result in almost every single one of these scenarios. And that's because Disney, I don't know if this is an accident or not, but you went ahead and you did all replacements. Not a single expansion announced for any of these parks, which is wild considering the fact that I've been saying this whole video that Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom, and even EPCOT need more things to do, and they need more capacity. There's a reason why lines at Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios are ridiculous, because they don't have the capacity to meet the amount of guests walking through the door. And that's even with Animal Kingdom having almost 4 million less guests than they did just 5 years ago. So yes, it's great that you're investing in these parks, but why in the world is every single dollar that you are putting into these parks for replacements instead of expansions? Animal Kingdom needs more things to do. It needs more capacity. It does not need you to replace what's already there. It does not need you to close It's Tough to Be a Bug for several months. It does not need you to close Dinoland USA and Dinosaur for a few years. It is not necessary, right? All you're doing is crippling this park at a time when, guess what? Universal's opening a brand new theme park. You're just telling people, do not come to Animal Kingdom until 2027 when we figure everything out. Otherwise, you're going to be walking into construction walls, and you're going to be walking into less things that you had to do at this park than just a couple years ago. So why in the world would I show up to Animal Kingdom when all this construction is going on? It just does not make sense, especially considering with a brand new theme park in the market and 2 existing Universal parks. Let's be honest, yeah, haven't gotten anything new of any sort of major significance in a while, but at least they have a ton of things for me to do. There are plenty of attractions at these existing Universal parks. The same cannot be said for Animal Kingdom, especially with all this construction going on. And I'm afraid that if Hollywood Studios goes the route of replacing Muppet Vision or Rock and Roller Coaster instead of Animation Courtyard, that park will likely find itself in the same boat. And even if they do go ahead and replace Animation Courtyard, even then there could be some problems, because you're talking Disney Junior closing, and you're talking potentially the Voyage of the Little Mermaid closing, which was just supposed to reopen this year. Those are 2 people-eating shows that could have done a lot to lower wait times, and now that they're gone, we might actually be seeing a squeeze in wait times across the entire park with them gone. So yeah, I mean, either way, regardless of what you replace here, Hollywood Studios, again, is going to be in a tough spot for the next few years while Monsters Inc. is getting built. And here's the thing, if you had opted to expand instead of replace, not only would the parks not be hindered in the short term when Epic Universe is doing its thing, and would actually be able to be a solid option for guests to visit on an Epic Universe trip, but then you would also get all the gain of having that brand new land built and opened in the next few years. And you'd be able to add capacity and things to do to these parks that desperately need it, instead of just kind of getting a one-to-one lateral move as far as capacity and things to do go. So that really brings me to the first major consequence of all these additions going forward, is that because you're closing up shop in places in Animal Kingdom, in Hollywood Studios, and in Magic Kingdom for the next few years, you are really making the decision easy for guests to not visit Disney World when they come to Orlando to visit Epic Universe, and instead to revolve their trip around the Universal parks instead of Disney World parks and just tacking on a day at Epic Universe. Instead, they're not going to see much reason to go to Disney World, because there's going to be all this construction going on. There's going to be a lack of things to do. There's going to be a lack of capacity. And there's going to be less of a reason for them to want to visit. Even though, yes, you have all those new things open in 2025, like we established, none of them are significant enough to really make a major impact in someone's decision-making as to whether or not I want to visit these parks. I think really the only park in the next few years that's going to still hold up fairly well is EPCOT, because EPCOT doesn't have anything getting closed or replaced. So really, I mean, that's the first major consequence of this. You're giving Epic Universe free runway for a few years while you're sitting back and doing all this construction and closing up parts of your park and basically making them less enticing products for guests who now have more options than they ever had before. And here's the thing, really the sad thing, I guess you could say, is that if Disney World had made these exact same commitments, the exact same plans just 3 years ago, they would be golden. They would be absolutely golden, because then you would spend 2023 and 2024, years that, mind you, have not been good attendance-wise for the Orlando theme parks as people are holding off their trips for Epic Universe. You could have spent those years building these new attractions and having rides closed while you replace them with new things, and then you could have had new major additions open in time for 2025 when Epic Universe opens, and then more in 2026 and 2027. You could have had this onslaught, this amazing answer to Epic Universe, but instead, what did Disney do? They did the exact same thing they have done time and time again. Whenever Universal has done anything of major significance, they have taken a reactionary approach instead of being proactive about the situation. We saw this with the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Disney doubted Universal. They didn't believe that it would have a major impact. And as a result, Disney didn't build any sort of new major projects to combat against it. And as a result, the Harry Potter lands at Universal had this crazy runway where they had no major competition from Disney whatsoever to slow it down. And as a result, Universal gained an obscene amount of market share in the Orlando market and actually has become a direct competitor of Disney when they were a mile off of that well before Harry Potter opened. And if Disney had done something to steal the thunder, steal the spotlight, and to slow up that growth, well then maybe Universal isn't where they are today, where they're not able to build a brand new theme park and to come for that top spot. But because Disney was slow to react and their response to Harry Potter didn't open up until nearly a decade later, Universal was able to run the gambit and brought themselves to where we are today. And now here's the same thing happening with Epic Universe. Disney's known about Epic Universe for nearly a decade now, and they were even given the blessing of the project being delayed 2 years because of COVID. They were given the opportunity to recollect, to rethink, and to have more time to put projects together to respond to Epic Universe because of that delay. And still, despite that, for some reason, Disney decides now, when we are a year away from Epic Universe opening, to put money in the parks. Oh, now we decide to do it. So now, not only are you giving Epic Universe years with next to nothing to compete against it, but you're also hurting your parks by leaving them under construction and closing a number of rides and attractions in parts of the park. And you're also giving Universal time to build new projects at their existing parks, or even to expand Epic Universe. By the time that some of these projects are done, Epic Universe will already have an expansion. Universal and their existing parks will likely already have a bunch of new major attractions. It's not like Universal's going to sit still after Epic Universe is done and wait for Disney to catch up. No, Disney will always be stuck playing catch up just like they were after Harry Potter opened. So listen, it may surprise you to hear that I'm actually excited for the future of Disney. I'm happy, I am glad that they are finally spending money and investing money in the parks. Right, after years of sitting back and doing the bare minimum or not having any sort of game plan for the future, this is exciting to me. This is fun. This is great because it means that Disney's actually going to participate in this battle. Because let's not forget, that just a year or two ago, when Disney had nothing to announce beyond 2024, it really looked like they had no game plan for the future. And they were planning to spend $0 going forward, regardless of what any sort of press release might have said. So the fact that they are committing to the parks now, yes, as I established, things are going to get ugly for Disney here in the short term. But once Disney gets these lands built, yes, they're still going to be playing catch up, but at least they're going to be in the fight. They're going to be in the battle, they're going to be in the game, and they're going to be participating alongside Universal and building new, exciting attractions. At the end of the day, when we get competition like this, we win. It's not fun when one side is basically just playing dead and allowing the other side to beat them up to a bloody pulp, quite frankly.
Stop! He's already dead.
So to wrap up what's been an absolutely unhinged rant, let me just say, I'm excited for the future of Disney. Did they mess up by announcing this stuff now and not 3 years ago? Absolutely. But that's the bed that they've made for themselves and they're going to have to sleep in it. But as a theme park fan, I'm just excited that we are getting new projects at both Universal and Disney, and we're going to be able to see a true fight go on in the future and not just a one-sided beatdown. So, you know what? As a theme park fan, I'm excited. And anyways, let me guys think in the comments. What do you think about these additions that Disney World will be getting in the future? What do you think about their prospects in trying to fend off the competition from Universal? Let me know what you guys think. Love you to say, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.